made it through the school code. Yay! I was telling Ann, I called Ann and Hal at their home, because I didn't know if it was a cell number or if it was your home number, so I left you a message on your answering machine saying, I'm coming. Right, exactly. So anyway, what an amazing gift. By being asked to come and share some of the readings, that meant I had to prepare, right? And read people who I didn't know anything about. And that's what's beautiful about this. So Shell gave me a choice of Benjamin Banneker or Mr. William Boen. And because I knew Benjamin Banneker, as you might know, is an 18th century self-educated African-American, just a scientist, an astronomer, a literary person. So he's famous, he's published, right? Mr. William Boen, who I said I'm going to read for you today, is someone who I didn't know, and whose story inspired me in the moment. So let's start with Mr. Boen. So William Boen was born in 1735, and he died in 1824. He was a farmer and a former slave. He lived near Mount Harley, New Jersey, which was close to someone else you may know of. Initials JW. Great. So he was friends with that guy, and he, as was said earlier, he applied for membership and was recommended for membership and eldership at Mount Holly, and he was put off. His application was not received for several years, but Mr. Boen was a powerful man, and the delay on his application did not delay his faith or his spiritual practice and growth. And so what I'm going to read to you is an anecdote that he told to some members of his meeting. So in his words, quote, well, let's set this up a little bit. He said, to a friend who visited him in the 86th year of his age, he gave the following account of his early life and religious experience. On being asked whether he could remember in what way and by what means he was first brought to mind and followed that which had been his guide and rule of faith and life, and which had preserved him so safely along through time, William answered as follows. Oh, yes, I can. Right well. In the time of the old French War, my master, for I was a poor black boy, a slave, my master sent me to chop wood on a hillside out of the sight of any house. And there was a great forest of woods below me, and he told me to cut down all the trees on the hillside. When I went home in the evenings, I often heard them talking about the Indians killing and scalping people, and sometimes some of my neighbors would come in, and they and my master's family talked of the Indians killing such and such, nearer and nearer to us. And so from time to time, I would hear them tell of the Indians killing and scalping people nearer and nearer, so that I began to think, like enough, by and by, they would kill me. And I thought more and more about it, and again would hear tell of their coming still nearer. At length I thought, sure enough, they will get so near that they will hear the sound of my axe and will come and kill me. Here is a great forest of woods below me and no house in sight. Surely I have not long to live. I expected every day would be my last, that they would soon kill me, a poor black boy here all alone. A thought then came into my mind, whether I was fit to die. It was showed to me, and I saw plain enough that I was not fit to die. Then it troubled me very much that I was not fit to die, and I felt very desirous, very anxious that I might be made fit to die. So I stood still in great amazement, and it seemed as if a flaming sword passed through me. And when it passed over, and I recollected myself, for I stood so for some time, it was showed me how I should be made fit to die. And I was willing to do anything so I might be made fit to die. Thus I was brought to mind and follow that. That has been the guide and rule of my life, that within me, that inclined me to good and showed me and condemned evil. Now I considered I had a new master. I had two masters, and it was showed me in my mind by my new master a certain tree on the hillside that I must not cut down. I had yet to come to it, but I did know what I should do, for my old master had told me to cut all the trees down on that hillside. My new master forbids me to cut a certain one, so I thought a good deal about it. I cut on one by one, and I came to the tree. I cut on by it and let it stand. But I expected every day my old master would come and see that tree standing and say, "What did thee leave that tree standing for? Did I not tell thee to cut all the trees down as thee went? Go cut that tree down." Then I didn't know what I should do. But he never said anything to me about it. I cut on and got some distance by it, and one day my old master brought out his axe and cut the tree down himself, and never said, "William, why didn't we cut that tree down?" Never said anything about it to me. Then I thought, surely my new master will make a way for me and take care of me if I love him and mind him and am attentive to this guide and rule of life. And this seemed an evidence and proof of it, and strengthened me much in love and confidence in my guide. And there's one more, there's several anecdotes in this reading, but there's one more I wanted to share with you, which I thought was, this is, what I think it speaks to is this gentleman's self-possession. So he says a little bit later, another query was made of William, how he and his old master got along together after his change, meaning his spiritual change. He said, "Very well. Sometime afterwards, one of his neighbors said to me one day, 'William, thy master talks of freeing thee.' I didn't think much about it. Didn't expect there was anything in it, though I had heard others say he talked of setting me free. Till, after some time, as my master was walking with me, going to my work, he said, 'William, wouldn't thee like to be free?' I didn't say anything to it. I thought he might know I should like to be free. I didn't make him any answer about it, but then I thought there was something in it. So after a while, sure enough, he did set me free." And then finally, William, as you get a sense of his personality here, William was very concerned for his integrity, to speak truthfully only. So here's a story about that. A wealthy neighbor, a white man, frequently availed himself of William's obliging dispositions by using his grindstone instead of procuring one for himself. On an occasion of this kind, his neighbor told him he was obliged to him for use of his grindstone, to which William returned the usual compliment of saying he was welcome. After the man was gone, William became uneasy in his mind with his reply as being insincere. He therefore went to his neighbor and made an acknowledgement that although he had told him he was welcome, yet it was only in conformity with custom, and it was not the case. For he thought the neighbor was better able to keep a grindstone of his own than he was. So you can just imagine William going back and saying, "You're really not welcome. You can afford your own grindstone." So, and then finally, there's a very poetic prologue from Charles H. Nichols, another scholar in the Africana tradition, that Dr. Weaver. is, has plowed in for so long. So this is an excerpt from Charles H. Nichols, who was a professor at Brown and among many other things. And it's from his book, famous book called Many Thousands Gone. And I suspect that Shell asked me, or whoever it was sourced through, asked for this to be shared because you'll hear some names. And it's like the calling in of the ancestors, the recognizing of who all is here, and the individuality of their voices. That we're not just one blob, that there are individual stories and personalities and carryings that we carry. So this is from Charles Nichols' book, Many Thousand Gone, and this is the prologue. They stretch in unending line across 100 years from colonial plantation to Appomattox. Black men, brown men, sons and daughters of the Gold Coast or Senegal, bastard sons of Virginia planters, dragged from homeland, auctioned, mortgaged, bequeathed, driven, with stripes on their naked backs and a price on their heads, seeking by the North Star a name and an identity in some far-off land of Canaan. Who were they? Venture, exchanged for 4 gallons of rum on the Guinea coast, brought to Rhode Island, a man-mountain of legendary strength, living out his days in Connecticut. Gustavus Vassa, snatched from Benin, sold to a captain in the Royal Navy, a chattel in Barbados and Georgia, joining with Granville Sharp in petitioning Parliament for an end to the slave trade. Solomon Northrop, the free New Yorker, kidnapped and sold into bondage on a Louisiana plantation, and those born in chains, the half-white sons of planters, William Grimes, Lewis and Milton Clark, Henry Bibb, Moses Roper. Moses Roper chained to his master's chase, trotting 15 miles back to bondage. He sought to escape. Ida, Henry Box Brown, shipped by freight to freedom from Richmond to Philadelphia. John Brown of Georgia, intrepid as his namesake at Harper's Ferry, the guinea pig of a sadistic doctor. Harriet Jacobs, a latter-day Pamela. Ooh, this is small. I'm getting old, but the print is small. A latter-day Pamela prayed to the master's lust, and the bold ones, Nat Turner, stoic, fanatic, visionary, a firebrand in the calm summer night of Tidewater, Virginia, in desperate rebellion, slaying 50-odd whites in their beds. William Graffy, disguising his near-white wife as his master, traveling 1,000 miles to a free land. Harriet Tubman, Moses, who could tote a flour barrel in one hand, returning to the South 19 times to lead over 300 fugitives with $40,000 on her head. In 1862, a scout for the Union forces leading a raid in South Carolina, freeing 750 slaves. Frederick Douglass, breaker of slave breakers, escaping in a borrowed Navy uniform with forged papers, a great brown man with a lion's mane of white hair, roaring against slavery, and after emancipation, advising presidents. William Parker, fugitive, boldly frustrating attempts to recapture slaves in Pennsylvania. And the energetic ones, William Wells Brown, assistant to a slave trader, refugee, abolition orator, author. James Pennington, fugitive, blacksmith, scholar, physician, abolitionist, invested with an honorary degree by the University of Heidelberg. Austin Seward, sold to pay horse racing debts, leader of the Wilberforce colony of fugitives in Canada. Moses Grandy, shrewd worker and ferryman, paying his purchase price 3 times over. Elizabeth Keckley, popular modiste and friend of Mary Todd Lincoln, revealing what lay behind the scenes at the White House. John Thompson, eluding Maryland patrols to ship Melville-like on a whaling vessel from New Bedford. And the God-intoxicated ones, Solomon Bailey, schooled in the Bible, the 19th century John Bunyan, prostrate before the Almighty. Ralph Roberts, a pathetic penitent confessing his ornery ways and dictating his life story to his master. Sojourner Truth, a wizened black sibyl, seeking in every tabernacle the heavenly city, chiding skeptic Douglas into hope of freedom with Frederick. Is God dead? Last of all, the cunning compromisers, William Haven, informer, trusted slave, tricking his dishonest master into signing his papers, and Josiah Henson, a specialist at Charlentry, his owner's overseer, refusing a life of freedom to protect the slaveholders' interests, embezzling funds of the refugees' Canadian community, celebrated as Mrs. Stowe's original Uncle Tom, presented to Queen Victoria, and a host of others, the fearful, the aggressive, the guilty, the bold, the strong, the weak, shackled in mind and body, straining against the yoke, yearning. This